On to the top Zen. 2020 was a dumpster fire for sure and will likely forever be immortalized as such. But despite being worse than any other year on record, there are some silver linings throughout the apocalyptic year. As we mentioned earlier, some content boomed while other industries busted big time. 2020 was a high risk, high reward year. And while we have had plenty of time discussing the cons, we wanted to take some time to talk about the pros. From sequel seasons that don't suck to finding out which of your friends is the best liar, there have been a few ways that we've been able to make it through the 2020 nightmare. With movie theaters closing their doors, there were only a few cinematic ventures to even be released this year, and even fewer of them were actually good. Luckily for number 10 on the countdown, it happened to be one of those good ones.
Yeah.
And number 10 on the countdown, you got a chance to see it, Jake. COVID free, I believe, in your car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, total drive-in experience.
Like a good old, Biden rallier.
Exactly.
Did
But
you
yeah,
honk
number
during the good parts of the movie? Is that like,
no, oh my God, somebody didn't turn off their lights behind us, and I wanted to get out and literally Trump supporter this person,
yeah.
which is short for beat 'em. Anyway, uh, number 10 on our countdown of good things that came out in 2020 is Christopher Nolan's banger Tenet. After a career spent exploring the concepts of time, director Christopher Nolan finally tackles the subject head on in Tenet, a film not just interested in timelines, but directly focused on them. It's a classic Nolan film in every sense of the way, packed tight with lofty ideas, impeccable set pieces, and pacey plotting, to the point of where it's practically a comfort watch rather than exciting new ground. But in a world where blockbuster cinema is dominated by franchises and sequels, the film serves as an accomplished demonstration of the pleasures of unconnected and non serialized original storytelling. And in the year 2020, when cinema was struggling through arguably its most difficult time in its entire history, Tenet works as a fantastic reminder of what blockbuster filmmaking can really aspire to be. And that's why it's the best experience in a huge dark room. Unfortunately, I only got to see it in a drive-in, but it was still a pretty good movie. I was stoked to see it again at home, and I just really haven't had the time or the chance to rewatch it yet. But this is definitely one of those classic Nolan films that could require 2 or 3 watches to really get what's happening, right? And so, anyway, have either of you guys got a chance to check out Nolan's banger that came out earlier this year?
I haven't, and I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan as far as his movies go. I've become less of a fan of him after hearing him moan and complain about the HBO Max decision. But nevertheless, I do want to take a chance to check out this because I know that intellectually and creatively, his movies are absolutely amazing, and I'm excited to see it.
If you enjoyed Inception, you will enjoy Tenet. Like, there's no it's just one of those where and they're not the same, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they're definitely there's still elements because it's Christopher Nolan, but
Right.
they're not the same film. But they're both very good movies. Like Tenet,
Exactly.
if Tenet would have came out any other year, we would still be talking about how well it did. I believe that, and so
I
For
haven't
sure.
seen it. I wanna see it. I'll probably, much to his chagrin, be streaming it, so
Well, Tenet was amazing, but it doesn't make as well as number 9 did on our countdown, which is Lovecraft Country. Tell us why Lovecraft Country makes number 9 on the countdown, Bronwyn.
HBO's terrific, terrifying, and topical adaptation of Matt Ruff's novel From Underground's Misha Green told the tumultuous tale of Army vet Atticus Tick Freeman, who, when returning back home to 1950s Jim Crow America, discovers that his family lineage connects to a forbidden magic and sorcery previously denied to African Americans. From there, Lovecraft Country rocketed us into a raucous adventure that touched on everything from time travel to body horror to the infinite possibilities of the multiverse. As Tick, Letty, and their family waged war against societal demons like racism, they also fought back against insurmountable odds in a fight for supernatural supremacy. This is just so topical right now, and I've started it. I'm loving it, and I know you guys have been watching it too. Religious as soon as it would come out. So what are your thoughts? How do you think that this has improved your 2020?
This was one of the series that I was binging on like a weekly basis. It was my kind of wind down actually after Geeklife. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah.
kind of show. And just week by week, I think that the acting in it itself is absolutely amazing. The writing in itself is absolutely amazing. The animation, the style, and the cinematography in itself is absolutely amazing. And I think that those are three separate entities that could be, both appreciated all on their own, but they really do bring it out together. I hate to be the person that's like the absolute cheerleader for content, but this is one that I couldn't say good enough things about. I don't know about you, Jake.
No, I completely agree. Like you said, I hate to be the cheerleader for it, but there's a reason why it made our very short list of good things that came out in 2020. It was probably one of the best television shows of 2020. Like you said, everyone, the actors were phenomenal. I'm excited for season 2. And the message was very strong during a time when we're essentially going through a second civil rights act, right? And so, overall, if you haven't got a chance to check out Lovecraft Country, this guy gives it 2 thumbs up. And so definitely do. It's one of the best shows of 2020, hands down.
Hands down, hands down. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much more you could say about Lovecraft Country, but it was absolutely fantastic, and glad to see it make this countdown. But number 8 on our countdown is one that we actually talked about previously in this show because it's got a lot of soul. That's right, it is soul. Christmas 2020 was a challenging one. Many of us couldn't go home, see our family, but luckily, many of us were able to come together and virtually talk shit about how bad Wonder Woman 84 was. And then after we were done, we flipped over to Disney Plus because, hey, didn't they come out with an animated flick around Christmas too? And yes, they did. And the low expectations made this film shine all the brighter. This jazz-inspired film and unique look on the afterlife was, a very touching, very telling. It was incredibly an incredibly pleasant surprise. Um, and as well as giving representation to people of color in a Pixar film, which hasn't really been done, at least very often before. Uh, I think outside of like Frozone, right? Like that's the only thing I could think of. So overall, Soul was an incredibly pleasant surprise. And yes, like any good Pixar movie, it will make you cry. So it gets 4 giant sobbing tear jerkers out of 5 for me. And makes number 8 on this countdown. So definitely something that you should check out for some good content and some good things that came out of 2020. Did you guys? Everybody here got a chance to check out Soul?
Yeah.
Would you say that my assumption of it is accurate, Jake?
Well, I know we talked about it a little earlier, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm honestly putting it on up there with almost with Coco. I loved Coco, and I thought Soul was, obviously not as musical of a movie, but still with some. Well, actually, no, yeah, with a good bit of music because it was still jazz, right? And so, like, there were some parts that I wish they would have went into more, but overall, great characters, beautiful development. The story was it was awesome, and I think we talked about it a little bit before the stream. It felt more the overall story of Soul felt very adult, and so like it was one of those where like it was a pleasant surprise at the end of the year, and that's why I made the list. Like you said, it was definitely like a kind of like a surprise that it came out because this movie was originally slated for theaters, and Disney's been kind of a stickler so far. Like they've been kind of like going back and forth on like we're gonna push this in theaters or we're gonna not. We're gonna make it $20 on our service. And like, like I'm really glad this didn't get the fucking Mulan treatment. Like, I'm really happy I didn't have to pay $20 to see Soul because I wouldn't have watched it, right? Or at least yet, not saying I'm a complete cheapskate, but come on, like, there's not many Pixar movies I'm renting for $20 to watch at the house. I'm going to wait until I could watch it for free. But I'm very, happy this one came out for free. We watched it all together, the family on Christmas, and I think everybody really enjoyed the overall, like, message that it was trying to tell. And so, very adult Pixar movie.
I
Right.
really enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and I love just how they brought up these really like advanced complex sort of concepts, but like in a fun way to children, which I think is really cool to have kids start thinking about these like metaphysical aspects of life. And I like that a lot. I love the score. Oh my gosh, the music was amazing. A lot of it was composed by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, which I thought was pretty cool. Uh, yeah, and
What?
yeah,
Trent Reznor?
uh-huh.
Like you can have it all, like Empire Dirt, Trent Reznor. Like, whoa, that's impressive.
Yeah. And I loved how it kind of switched. Like the music was so cool because it did have all these like obviously the jazz elements, but then it would get super spaced out and trippy and I'm
Yeah.
all about that stuff. So
Yeah, the main antagonist was a fourth dimensional creature. Like
yeah.
Totally.
that was trippy as hell.
Yeah, those
Mhm.
were pretty interesting. Its overall concept of death was really interesting, and the reincarnation kind of in a way, and just like, yeah, no, it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely
And
fantastic.
just
Now,
enjoying life. It's really good.
well, we've been talking about a lot of video content willing to be consumed, but video games ruled 2020. We know this to be true, especially number 7 on our countdown. Number 7, Jake, is
Cyberpunk
yeah.
2077, but for PC only. And that's a huge caveat. Let me say that if you're listening to this, Cyberpunk 2077 for PC is the one that is on this countdown. I have not played it on console. I've only played it on my PC, so I don't know. But I have seen the videos, I have seen the memes, I have seen, like just screenshots and everything. And God help everyone who's playing this thing on a last gen console. It looks awful, right? But I have a confession to make, which is that I have played over 40 hours this year of Cyberpunk. I did 30 hours roughly in 2020. And so we've definitely put some time in on this game. It's been draped in controversy since its loss, with screenshots and recordings of glitches and bugs on consoles that have been completely bonkers. Thousands of players have even requested refunds. Sony got so many requests for refunds, they even pulled it from the store. And so, but I'm not one of them. I've been grinding my way through Night City almost daily until my PC decided to die earlier this week. Now, if that was Cyberpunk's fault, it's still yet to be seen. It could have been the fact that my power source wasn't ready for a 3070, but whatever, we'll also see about that. While I can't deny that this game has had issues, bugs, glitches, all the full, spectrum of issues on a PC that's strong enough to play it, this game's beautiful. And the story's great. I've really enjoyed the story. I've enjoyed playing a game with Keanu Reeves in it. Having Johnny Silverhand be with you essentially throughout the majority of this game and its story has been super enjoyable. The conversations you have with Johnny after, and I don't want to like give out too many spoilers, but essentially after Johnny Silverhand is in you, and you see him through like essentially your vision, you see little visions of him throughout the game. It's very reminiscent of Joker, and I believe what was in Gotham, was it Gotham Knight or Gotham City? Arkham Knight. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's very reminiscent of Joker in that game, where after you get hit with the gas and everything, throughout the rest of it, he's just popping up as kind of like this little side character with some bullshit to say to you, right? But the only difference is in Cyberpunk, you can either tell Johnny to fuck off, or you can talk to Johnny and continue to go into the madness that is Johnny Silverhand. And so I really enjoyed this game, man. Keanu's been great. A lot of people are like, saying Keanu was the worst part of it. I'm like, dude, come on, guys. I bought this for Keanu. You're wonderful. And so it's one of the best games I played in 2020, hands down. And it came out right there at the tail end of it. CD Project Red is still Bay to me. And I think it will be for a long time. I was a huge Witcher fan. And so, long story short, I essentially was ready to pull out some mantis blades and fight people if we couldn't put Cyberpunk on this list, but it came out at number 7.
Yeah, it's and I think it's only number 7 because of its record with the console gen. I mean, you can't talk about Cyberpunk's launch in 2020
Play it.
with without the fact that yeah, there's a bunch of people out there that can't play it right now.
Yeah, can't even play it.
And the fact that they issued the largest, I mean, like for the first time ever I've ever seen a video game company say, hey, we're going to issue refunds for this game because it's not as good as we promised it to be. I mean, most video game developers were like, we'll send an update. And they're like,
Yeah.
it's still bad. Update it again. And then
I think people
it's still
forgot
fucking
about
bad.
Skyrim.
Well, just update it, you know?
I really
Right?
think people forgot about Skyrim. Like,
The perfect game
there
ever.
well, okay, yeah, but if you played it at launch on a PlayStation 3, you got fucked a lot. The bugs were awful. Not only was it super glitchy, it was almost unplayable at times if your save got up a certain amount. If your save file got big enough on your PlayStation 3, and I remember this because I was a huge Skyrim fan, played many hours of Skyrim, you couldn't even play it. There was a time where I had to wait for a patch to play my fucking game because they essentially had made it to where if your save file got so big, it would load and crash. And so I think people like, this game was so highly anticipated that when it came out and flopped, it was much easier to kick it. You know what I mean? Whereas with Skyrim, a lot of people I think have forgotten about what was that essential debacle of a launch as well. And so we've had buggy games come out before. I don't know why we all got entitled all of a sudden. Like, I mean, buggy games come out all the time. Like, there's been tons of AAA titles that are unplayable. Mass Effect was god awful too when it came out. But then, after they fixed the bugs, it was a good game.
Yeah, for real, for real. What are your thoughts on CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 making number 7 on our countdown, Bronwyn? Adding more of the boot for its past misgivings.
It's deserved, and I am excited to play it, but I was never gonna be one of the first people to buy this game because we've been talking a lot about how it's been rushed, so I knew there'd be these glitches. I also like to, just like wait a little bit. Maybe it'll get cheaper, maybe it'll be more playable, and at that point, I'm sure I will love this game when I play it. So I'm
Yeah.
still excited. I'm still on their team, just a farther away team.
Yeah. Well, speaking of team, nothing that's team related. Number 6 in our countdown is Fall Guys, the completely solo player game that you play by yourself. But anyways, Brahma, tell us why Fall Guys makes the countdown.
Well, this was a huge surprise this year. It came out of nowhere and took the internet by storm. The cute little bean battle royale game won everybody's heart during a pandemic where battle royales were all the rage. Not only was this one the most creative battle royale game of the year, it was and still is an insanely fun and cute game to play. Plus, with an upcoming Doom collaboration that we talked about earlier, it's easy to see why Fall Guys is going to stay strong in 2021.
Jake,
Oh,
how do you
yeah.
feel
Take
about
it
Fall
away, Jake.
Guys? How do you
Oh,
feel
yeah.
about Fall Guys making number 6 in our countdown, our resident Fall Guys streamer?
No, definitely one of the funnest games I played in 2020. I think it's interesting to see how they're trying to keep the hype going into 2021 with some of these new collabos and stuff like that or whatever. But this was I streamed this game a few times. My people who watched the stream towards the end of the year actually got a chance to see me win my one and only crown. And so snatching that crown live on stream is probably honestly it's one of my top 10 memories. So like it'll forever be etched because of just like how fucking fun that was. And so like, super competitive game, also super, cute and everything all together. And like Bronwyn said, it really was a huge surprise. Honestly, like when I first booted it up and played it, I was really pleasantly surprised at how fun this game was. And so one of the best things to come out of 2020 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Fall Guys is a lot of fun. Other than the terrible drinking game that I decided to make out of it and that
Yeah.
awful hangover that I got from it, I still get sick from playing Fall Guys now. I need to fix that. Hopefully going forward, I can just like have some good experiences playing Fall Guys and
Means
not
next time you play it, you just got to get even drunker. No. Hair of the
hair
dog,
of the
baby.
dog. Hair of the dog. Well, speaking of hair of the dog, or at least the dog-shaped villager, for number 5 in our countdown is Animal Crossing. Why does Animal Crossing make our countdown, Jake?
I mean, because there would probably be a ride if it didn't. It's one of the greatest things that come out of 2020 easily was Animal Crossing. New Horizon is a cute, often clever, totally unique social game, but it can also be a great solitary one as well, with plenty of animal friends to keep you company. Life is good in whatever you want to call your island. Almost 1 year in, those that stuck with Animal Crossing New Horizon have not only spent months collecting, decorating, and hosting, but also watching the seasons change along with new updates like and DLC like the holiday celebrations. I personally fell off of Animal Crossing for a little bit here, well after putting 80 plus hours into this game during the months of like March and April. After it first came out, I think I played this every day. It was almost like a part of my like daily routine. I would wake up, brush my teeth, do some work stuff. Even during that work stuff, I'd be playing some Animal Crossing because we were working from home. And so it was one of those things where like this game was constantly getting played. My Switch was being charged more than it's ever been charged, I believe, during the months when I was just grinding on Animal Crossing. And it's kept a great audience. And like you said earlier, whenever we were talking about the look back at 2020, it was a big way that people connected. A lot of people came and visited each other's islands. There was graduations held on islands, proposals, weddings, everything. And so Animal Crossing is a big reason why a lot of people made it through 2020, I believe. It was a great, mental health booster when you needed it. And I really thank Nintendo for dropping this bad boy right around the time the pandemic made us all get locked into our homes. And so, with the world on fire, it might be time for me to go back and visit my villagers and see how they've been holding up without me. I wonder if there was an attack on our capital while I was away. I'm gonna
Right?
go back, and Tom Nook's gonna be locked in the back room, like, "Holy shit, Jake, where have you been?"
Yeah. It's too late for you, Jake. They've already executed the 24th Amendment.
The fascists got in.
Animal Crossing was huge during the beginning of the pandemic for me too. I mean, I was like living alone and spent a lot of time by myself. So it was a great way to be able to interact with people. And I put so much time and so much fun into that game. But I'm telling you, beware when you go back to your island because I it was huge for me in the beginning, and then I stopped playing. And then a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to just check in, see how everyone was doing on my island, show one of my friends the game for the first time. And there's so many weeds, and there's so many cockroaches in my home, and I'm just like, it's just like walking around trying to be like, oh, and this is my garden, and then I'm like just ripping weeds out of the ground and like just getting right back into the game, like shaking all the trees, like all this money everywhere. So it's kind of stressful going back into it.
Because I was a 5-star island guy. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was just saying I was a 5-star island guy. So like my shit was so clean. Like I had it looking so pretty. And so like I know if I went back right now, I would be like, like no.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. I personally don't have Animal Crossing because I already have this kind of that level of anxiety in real life about like my house as it is. And I don't know why anybody wants to simulate those things in a video game, but when you put it in like when you put capitalism in cutesy little animal form, people just go fucking nuts over it. So, and Animal Crossing was a huge, absolutely huge success this year. I mean, I know.
Zero interest. And you get to live in the house while you pay it off. He's one of the greatest landlords ever. If capitalism worked the way Tom Nook worked, I'd be for it. It's not bad.
Yeah. You're pro Tom Nook's version of capitalism.
He's a good guy.
Is he?
Dude, who gives you a $1 billion? Who gives you a 1 billion bell loan essentially and says, you know what, but you just pay it back at cost and at your own time. You know what I mean? If that was any other bank, you would get at least a 25% interest on that bad boy, at least.
Yeah. Well,
and you'd have to pay it back in 6 years.
Yeah.
I still haven't paid Tom Nook back for my last loan. I know he looks at me crazy when I'm buying crazy shit like crowns and everything, but
and like if you didn't, all you'd have to do is set your clock back on your Switch and you're fine. So it's much less consequential than an actual loan because you can't just set the
time
clock
travels
back.
For cheaters. I don't time travels for cheaters.
And then I'm a cheater.
Yeah. And then are you calling Doctor Who a cheater?
Yeah.
You calling the Doctor a cheater?
Time travel in Animal Crossing is for cheaters. In real life, it's just for,
well, are you calling the Animal Crossing Doctor a cheater? Anyways. We'll keep on moving. We got plenty more of a countdown to get to. Number 4 in the countdown was one that surprised all of us. Borat 2. was a huge surprise. 2020 was full of surprises, and one of them was the secret filming of Borat 2. Early on in the pandemic, Sacha Baron Cohen made headlines by pissing off rednecks at a Trump rally. Not out of the ordinary for Cohen. This is the same guy that has I don't know if you guys have seen his show on Showtime, but there was one time where he took Roy Moore on there and he said, "This is a pedophile detector. I'm just gonna see if it works." And like every single time I had scanned Roy Moore, it started beeping. It was fucking great. But anyways, Sacha Baron Cohen is known for pissing off Republicans. But flash forward to October, and all of a sudden, Cohen has finished filming Borat, pitches it to Amazon to meet his goal of trying to get this movie out and released to the public before the November election. And sure enough, on October 23rd, Cohen meets that goal and releases the movie just before the election. And the movie was one, fucking hilarious. Two, featured major politicians, including Rudy Giuliani and Mike Pence. Three, did a great way, in the most Sacha Baron Cohen-esque way, of showing what America is going through right now, the level of ignorance that people are consumed with right now. I mean, like, if you sit back and look at the examples that Sacha Baron Cohen pointed out there, one of my favorites is the one where they go to the abortion clinic, and the situation that the guy at the abortion clinic thinks that this person is coming to him with is that he is her father and he impregnated her, and she wants to get rid of it and have an abortion, and he won't fucking pull the trigger for her. Yes, it's funny the way they do it. It's hilarious the way they do it, but that's what he's showcasing. He showcased that if you ask somebody to, they will write anti-Semitic rhetoric on a cake for you. The same people that wouldn't, well, I mean, I don't know if it's the same baker, but this is the same country that refused to bake cakes for a gay couple. I mean, I'm not trying to make a serious point of a funny movie, but I am trying to make a serious point of a funny movie. Sacha Baron Cohen had a outstanding, powerful message with this movie, and it was all wrapped up in hilarious messaging that made it just so entertaining that Rudy Giuliani couldn't stop tucking his shirt in the entire time. So what do you guys think about Borat 2? Was it as big of a highlight of your 2020 as it was mine, Bronwyn?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that this was so clever and so on the nose, and watching it too, especially right before, I think I actually, yeah, watching it right before the election was like he did what he set out to do with getting that message out there, and I thought that it was extremely clever too, the way that he was able to make this movie while being so well known, and like kind of like playing that into the movie of like being in all these like elaborate costumes, but then also I forget the name of his co-star in the film, but she completely took like she stepped like what?
No, she stole the show. She was great.
She stole the show for this, and to do like what he can do, like oh my gosh, like that was what really impressed me in this. I thought that was amazing.
Jake,
I'm
what are
like,
your thoughts on Borat 2?
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was a great movie, and it came out at a great time. And Sacha Baron Cohen is just, he's a phenomenal guy, and at what he does, especially, which is political commentary, essentially, in a completely outrageous way, right? The Eric Andre of political commentary, in a way, right? And so it was a very smart film. The first one had a lot to say too. It's just people, like we all were kind of young when it came out, and so everybody's like, my wife, like, and then it's like, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of commentary there about like how Americans just think poor countries and people, like that are from them act, you know what I mean? And so like anyway, it was a great movie overall, and I thought it was the timing of it was really solid too. They knew they wanted to come out with it right before the election, and I thought that was genius. And so,
They were successful. Yeah.
yeah, and did not see a Borat film coming out at the beginning of this year, right? So when 2020, definitely a huge surprise and a great one at that.
Can you imagine how defeated you would have filmed if you would have felt if you'd filmed all of that stuff and you got it out after the election? Like, I
Yeah.
think that would have been,
It
a
would've
bit.
sucked.
Yeah, it would have really kind of
I
soured.
don't even know if he would have let it go out because I mean he had a lot of control in this film too, apparently. So
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Mhm.
Um, well, speaking of sequels that definitely surpassed the predecessors, The Boys season 2 came out, and that makes number 3 on our countdown. Tell us why The Boys season 2 made number 3 on our countdown, Jake.
It was diabolical. But no, the boys' sinister second season found. I'm not going to do this in Carl's accent the whole time, but found our illustrious anti-heroes not only battling back against the Mighty Seven or the Mighty Seven, but also the newest member of the super gang, a lightning-wielding genocidal Nazi maniac named Stormfront, who seemed to be operating under her own ugly agenda. Which, no spoilers. I guess I should have called her a Nazi. Ugh, sorry. Anyway, continue to maintain a perfect balance between comedy, intrigue, and over-the-top violence. The boys gave us amazing character development in the form of Anthony Starr's Homelander, Carl Urban's Billy the Butcher, and Erin Morterary's, I'm pretty sure I just murdered her last name, but Erin Starlight, which, all of those guys, and Huey saw a lot of character development in season 2. Obviously, season 1 was Huey's season. Season 2 really was like a Homelander, Butcher, Starlight. Like these guys really started to come into their own as far as like characters within the show, especially Homelander. Holy shit. Whatever they do in season 3 with Homelander is going to be amazing. And speaking of season 3, the show was such a smash hit that Amazon immediately greenlit season 3. And so they're already starting production of it now. And so this thing landed a lot of shocking surprises and had some very emotional scenes as well. And it was a beacon of light, starlight to be exact, in what was pretty much a year of disaster. The Boys season 2 was a great commentary on the dangers of the Uber Patriot, which looking back at like Tuesday or last week, it's very fitting given recent events. If anybody's actually going back and watching The Boys right now, I like really like it's you should see it in a different light than what you did even before, right? Because it's a commentary on the mega crowd in some aspects, more than one, right? But it's also there's even season 2 towards the end has a little hint of like a little commentary on the Uber left as well and how they have secret agendas too, right? And so like it's really one of those where like without giving any more spoilers because I'm sure I gave a few in that it was a great show, and it was a great beacon of hope in 2020, and it looks like a great beacon of hope going forward because Amazon's already greenlit it for future seasons.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I was looking forward to every single week.
Oh yeah,
Um, it was, and it held the mantle that Mando did at a different time period when it was just. I was so excited just to see any content coming out, let alone something that was, uh,
really
very
good.
entertaining. Yeah, and I think The Boys one did a really good job of season 1 at establishing this universe of like these are superheroes, but they're real, Um, and then season 2 building on what that looks like in our modern world, and I think that that was really really amazing to see. Um, how do you feel about The Boys making this high on the countdown, Brahman?
I don't doubt it. It feels like though 2020 has been a lot of me like starting things and not finishing them because this is another one that I'm halfway through and still need to get through the rest. But that doesn't, it's not because I'm not enthralled in the show. It's just been, life gets crazy and then another cool new thing comes up and then I get into that and then I stop watching that to do something else. So I still think this deserves a spot on the countdown because what I have seen is fucking incredible. I have loved this show since it first came out, and the first season I streamed in like 3 days, I think, something crazy like that. So, very worthy of the number 3 spot for the second season of The Boys.
Right. But we're getting down to the final two, and there's no way that you could talk about a countdown about the good things that happened about 2020 and not talk about the 2-year-old game that is Among Us. Why does Among Us make the countdown in 2020 of best things to come out of 2020, Brahman?
Among Us was not released this year, but it definitely gained its popularity during the pandemic, and I think it's safe to say it's become a staple of 2020. Inner Sloth released the online multiplayer social deduction game in 2018, but as people remained in their homes with limited ways to interact with each other, Among Us reached record plays and streamings. Because what better way because what better ways to stay connected to each other than being at constant risk of sabotage and turning against your crewmates? I've certainly enjoyed this game. It's receives a large platform. I mean, AOC even did a stream of this. How amazing was that? So it's crossing into like the political sphere now. And I've also really enjoyed the times I've been able to spend playing it with you all on the show, on the stream, and with our fellow nerd herd. Has been a great way to, I think, stay social and uh, create new memories. I really liked Dotson, you said earlier, like sort of equating it to like being at a bar, like meeting people at a bar, hanging out with people. I think that's a really good analogy for this and really beautiful thing. Grab a drink, go on your ship, pretend to do some shit while you're really
Really waiting to kill people in the shadows.
yeah.
I
Like,
think
how I mean, this whole year, I think I've been pretending to do things, like, sure.
getting to do things I don't really understand that I'm doing. Yeah.
Ron's like, I've been faking task all year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My life's been nothing but faking tasks.
I've been faking task all year. That's my mantra going forward. I'm just faking task.
Right. No, I
I'm the
think
imposter.
one of the things that made Among Us was so great was, yes, the pandemic, but also the accessibility level of Among Us. I mean, the
Yeah.
fact that Among Us is a game that AOC could jump in and play in front of thousands of people and still, do even remotely successful at, with, obviously her limited amount of free time, shows you just how easy the game is to jump in and play. And even like the fact, I mean, we saw the X, the triangle, and the square added to the wire task, right? As one of the updates, and that's just to help colorblind people so that they can connect those wires even if they're colorblind. So the level of accessibility and the level of they care about accessibility in this game, I think, is unmatched, and I think that should shape how games going forward look at accessibility, in my opinion. Uh,
Yeah.
Not only that, I mean, the game works a lot a uh, like a board game, that you can play with all of your friends. Like it feels like a Monopoly kind of thing. And I
Very
think
easy to pick up.
yeah, I feel like that's something that was really needed in this pandemic. Don't you think so too, Jake?
Oh no, I agree. I definitely understand why Among Us hit number two, even though it didn't really come out in 2020. It really hit its stride in 2020 and was a big way that not just I think a lot of people passed time, but even us on this stream. We've had multiple Among Us streams, and so it's a really fun game to play with, 8, 9, 10 other people. And I think it's going to stay strong even, going after the pandemic. But I really think the pandemic helped it hit its stride. It's one of the greatest things to come out of 2020 because without the pandemic and without this past year, Among Us could have died, or we could have not found it until they came out with Among Us 2 because that was the original plan, right? And so and I love the old school like look and feel of Among Us, even though it just came out in like 2018. So definitely like excited for the future of this game and the developer in itself, and think it was 100% one of the best things to come out of 2020.
I completely agree. I mean, it's a very popular game. Hell, according to Twitch, we were streaming it earlier in this stream. So,
Even when we're not
even when
imposter.
we're not, we still have people. Even when we're doing the regular show, that come in. Hey, you guys still need one? Oh, sorry, we're not. But it's been a really fun game to play. It's something that you can pop in, pop out of. And like for me, I remember at some point during the pandemic, I just went, I'm gonna try each time someone says there's an Among Us game available to join in because I have so much fun doing it. Just try to make sure I can if I can, not try to just be like, I'm watching this movie or something like that. But like, nah, let it interrupt the movie because it is one of those ways that we've been able to socialize in 2020 in this pandemic. So
Exactly.
well, none of these on the countdown hold a candle to the number one shining star on a hill that was the best thing to come out of 2020, and that is The Mandalorian season 2. The Mandalorian was a Death Star-sized oasis in the desert of content that was 2020. The Mando had big shoes to fill after an incredible season one. The first season introduced us to Mando, Baby Yoda, Moff Gideon, Cara Dune, and the great Mandalorian lore. But Kev Farvo doesn't make mistakes, and season two turned up the heat, introducing fan favorites like Bo-Katan, Ashoka Tano, Bill Burr, and a few more. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but let's just say green lightsabers. Regardless of the case.
So from the Scarlex pit or whatever.
Like, yeah, and not to mention other possible Mandalorians showing up in there as well. Again, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, people who haven't been caught up yet, but there's no doubt in my mind that The Mandalorian was the best content that came out this year. I mean, I saw people watching the reactions to the final episode of Mandalorian and literally were crying. And I get why. It was absolutely beautiful. It was something that reunited a lot of people for their childhood. It gave a lot of people just something to really enjoy in a really fucking hard time, to be honest. It gave us something to be crazy about, and because season one came out before the pandemic, when this stuff was just like, there wasn't all this crazy pandemonium going on. It was kind of like a return to normalcy kind of feeling. It didn't feel like, oh, we're back into season two of Mandalorian. I turned on Disney Plus once again, finally again, ever since I turned it off after the last episode of Mandalorian.
To get too heavy, but if you've ever dealt with and this has been, obviously the pandemic's had a lot of stuff, but if you've ever dealt with depression, having something to look forward to every week is a huge win, right? And during the times when, like having a show or something new like that to look forward to, I don't mean like, everything's doom and gloom, but like at the same time, like, if you get into some dark places, as sometimes depression can take you there, having like just even something like Mando to look forward to every week can actually pull you from like, being in a pretty dark area. And so like that was something I always like every Friday. I would like, no matter how shitty I felt that whole week, I would go, Friday evening, I'm gonna smoke some weed and watch some Mando, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Like this week has been garbage, but Mando's on Friday, so let's get it, baby. Like.
And I feel you on that. I remember vividly as a child, and the thoughts that go through my head with dealing with depression, and with even, to get real, just some thoughts of self-harm, and realizing that the possibility of another Smash Brothers coming out was what was getting me through it. And it sounds fucking stupid and laughable, but it was absolutely the thing I was looking forward to, and seeing what new character was going to be in there. And it's well, I can't jump off this train just yet. I don't know if they're going to throw in Waluigi, and they never do.
You never do, damn it.
They never do. But the whole prospect of it, for a lot of time, kept the light on. And I think that stuff is important.
Mando definitely helped keep things normal. Like you said, it was like a return to normalcy. It felt nice to have something to look forward to each week that was quality, and something that was like in the Star Wars universe that was quality too. And this season did not pump the brakes at all. It kept it going, and there's a reason why it's number one on the countdown. It's probably the greatest thing to ever come out of 2020.
Yeah, it really was. Baby Yoda, Grogu stole our hearts. I remember watching an episode of The Mandalorian with all my family when we were, trying to safely gather for COVID. And looking across the room, and all of us fucking, the people that were watching it, because the nerds are the smart ones in my family, all wearing masks, and trying to figure out how to get through this crazy holiday. But for 1 second, we were all together watching the same show in the same room. So that that means something in the middle of the pandemic. And I think that Mandalorian was one of the great content pieces that really brought that together. And hands down the best of those. I mean, again, Kevin Farvo doesn't make mistakes. When Kevin Farvo says, I want to make a Christmas movie, it's fucking Elf. When Kevin Farvo says, I want to make a superhero movie, it launches the MCU, and when Kevin Farvo says, I want to make Star Wars, he makes the Mando.
Let the man do what he wants to do, because he's deserved that right now. He's the big dick in Hollywood, in my opinion. Like, let that guy do whatever the fuck he wants to do. I'll watch it.
For real. Brahman, any thoughts on Mandalorian making number one?
Guys, you have me so excited to watch this show. And like I was just thinking, Jake, I'm like, I should like put it on my schedule. And like I know it's not coming out on a weekly basis, but like this will be my Mando day and I'll watch it like episodically like that. That'll be great.
Do it, man. Because you never know. The week can get busy. You may not have the time to just binge, right? But like, if you could set aside 45 on a Friday, every Friday, there you go. You got it.
I do not have the level of patience to be able to sit there and be like, all right, I'll just watch one episode. If I had the option to binge, I'd binge.
Yeah.
Spiral from there, but
right. I think you should set that goal before you start, but like allow yourself the room to fail on that goal. And like, I'm gonna binge, just go in your heart of hearts. Know that it's okay to binge if you want to. Cheat days encouraged. Exactly. Great shot. Exactly. All right. Well, honorable mentions. You've got Miles Morales was a fantastic game on the PS4, as well as Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes.
You have Invisible Man was a fantastic movie, a very, very cool horror movie that came out this year.
Very early on in the year, so I think some people may have forgot about it. That was very early in the pandemic, but straight to DVD, or not straight to DVD, but straight to on demand. And I think it did in some theaters, but very good movie.
It was fantastic. The Good Place wrapped up its final season this year. That was this year as well. Yeah. Schitt's Creek also wrapped up its final season. We also have phenomenal kind of Netflix sensations like The Queen's Gambit and Tiger King that broke out as well. So kudos to all the honorable mentions. Yeah, we're honorable. You've been mentioned, but you didn't make the cut. All right. Anyways, that will wrap it for our show.